Hello everybody, welcome to today's stream of Beyond the Light, episode 3. My name is Artyom, I'm part of the community team here at IO, and I'm joined by Mikhail Vogt, main writer on 007 First Light. And today we're going to talk a little bit about story and how we actually work on an origin story for a Bond game. But before that, as per usual, you can see the next episode of Beyond the Light right here, right now. And afterwards, you can stay for a few live Q&A questions, which we will try to tackle. And yeah, I think all I can say right now is have fun with today's episode. See you guys afterwards.
Brace yourself!
Welcome back to Beyond the Light episode 3. And today we had the chance to talk to lead writer on 007 First Light, Mikhail Vogt. He will share a few insights on how we craft the story for the game.
My name is Michael Vogt. I am the main writer on 007 First Light, and I have been with IO for 14 years. The origin aspect was always essential to the project vision. Since we meet Bond as a young man, the tone and the story world also needed to reflect his sort of youthful perspective. It's not a dark and gritty or cynical world. It's dangerous, to be sure, but it's fun and inviting and adventurous and ultimately hopeful. He's not jaded yet. So Bond is experiencing this hidden, exciting world of espionage for the very first time. Of course, we want to convey a sense of bright-eyed wonder here. There's this trope of the hero who walks away from explosions, right, because he's so cool. But the reason heroes walk away from explosions is because they've seen so many of them. But this is Bond's first outing, and he's 26 years old, so I think he's going to want to turn and watch that explosion. Many of the aspects that you associate with James Bond is already there as innate qualities. He's incredibly charming and charismatic, and he's audacious. He's very cool under pressure, and of course he's insanely capable and resourceful. And there's a ruthlessness to him when the situation requires it. Emotional distance, or at least a reluctance to deal with emotions. He's not the suave connoisseur either, who knows everything about champagne and wine and fancy cars. I think that will come with age and experience. But because he's a young guy, there are also some traits that we haven't really seen before. There's an innocence to him here. He's quite trusting and earnest and idealistic even. And traits that you sort of sense will probably not survive this job for long, even if he does. Belonging is definitely a theme in this story. He's a young man who hasn't found his place in the world or his purpose yet. What does it mean to be a 00 in this age, and does the world even still need them? Will heart and intuition even matter, or can technology just do everything better? So in that sense, the story reflects the times that we live in, which is also something that Bond stories have always done. So this youthful take also informs some of the gameplay choices that we make. For instance, we have a bluff mechanic, something Bond can do to get out of a tight spot, because we felt that that's exactly the sort of thing a young James Bond would do. Agent 47 in Hitman, he plans meticulously, but Bond is not somebody who plans meticulously. He's very impulsive. He just goes in and he wings it. When we start out in a pre-production, we make a story outline that looks pretty much like a feature film, only it's a little bit more elastic. Technically, you can say you structure it like a film. You make sure that the first half of the second act is very flexible, so you can make for a much longer running campaign while still preserving the tension curve towards the end of the story, towards the climax. The way I see it, as a game writer, you really have two toolboxes. Toolbox number one is the classic screenwriting craft, the time-honored method of structuring plots and creating character arcs and themes that resonate and kind of tying it all together into a meaningful experience. And then once you've done that, that's usually when you enter production, you go to toolbox number two, and that's the game writing craft. That's where you take that initial outline and then translate it somehow into an interactive experience. And throughout production, we work especially very closely with level designers in just designing the moment-to-moment story gameplay flow. Creating the story gameplay flow is a much more demanding task than simply writing a classic story outline, and it takes 50 times as long. As writers, we are schooled in classic storytelling. So in a way, you can say a linear story-driven action-adventure like First Light is actually closer to home than say, a big, sprawling, non-linear, gameplay-driven beast like Hitman. So I don't think we actually, as a team, had to adapt that much. It's kind of within the the comfort zone of what we're trained to do. The bigger challenge was to figure out how to make a forward momentum game while still preserving the things that make an IOI game an IOI game. So the story is about how Bond becomes a 00. So we are going to put him on a trajectory, but we're not going to resolve the character in this game. I think, to me, Bond is someone who clearly grows and evolves, but he's not somebody necessarily who changes fundamentally. Rather, he has some innate qualities that makes him an agent of change. He changes the world, right? He does that all the time. He has to have some inherent Bond qualities that are just there from the get-go. So we're definitely on this journey with him, and we see him mature in many kinds of ways. But the story is as much about how he changes MI6 and how he changes the characters around him. Bond has heart, and he's very tenacious, and he's willing to take risk. And that actually changes the way MI6 operates in an era that is otherwise kind of risk-averse and data-driven. Our Bond definitely leans more on other people than we're used to seeing. One, because he's not a seasoned agent yet and he's still learning the ropes. And also because games are fundamentally different from film in that players spend a long time alone on the sticks. So you do need that supporting cast to communicate story, really. So Bond has a number of strong relationships throughout the campaign, some known and some new, and they each kind of affect him in different ways and play a role in how he develops as a character. As a player, especially an IOI player, you want as much agency as possible, and we want to give it to them, obviously. At the same time, we do need players to feel like Bond at all time. In Hitman, you are kind of able to go spectacularly out of character at any given moment, but you can't really do that with Bond. That feels wrong. He's too established. So the way we approach choice is not about branching, it's about improvisation. So your Bond can be more of a brawler, or he can be clever and talk his way out of situations, or he can stealth around and use gadgets, and those are all valid choices. So we use choice as a way for players to feel clever and to think on their feet like a proper 00 agent, but without ever actually breaking character.
Afternoon, sir. Staff and press only.
Oh, damn. Forgot my press badge.
You're not the first.
You'll see sometimes in the game we're able to enter a dialogue tree with different characters. And the way we use it is, again, not about branching, but it's about that there's usually one option that's mandatory, and then the others are for world building. So it's simply about how interested are you in this world, in this situation, in these characters. Part of the creative approach is also eavesdropping, especially in a social arena. There are a lot of similarities we did in Hitman, where you have to listen in on conversations, to obtain hints, and unlock opportunities to solve a certain objective along the way. A good villain is someone who's thematically opposed to the main character. And it can be multiple people, obviously. You usually have 3 or 4 major or minor villains that challenge different aspects of the hero's character. Sometimes a great villain is also someone who's a dark mirror, a mirror image of the hero, but I think that the thematic aspect is probably the most impactful, really, whose values and ideas are just diametrically opposed. A character like Bovma has a lot of contrast. On the one hand, he seems very volatile and ruthless, savage even, but he's also kind of a philosopher king. He's very thoughtful and eloquent. And ultimately, I think what makes him interesting and sympathetic is that he is someone who's really trying to build something from nothing. You have to respect that, even in a harsh environment. He's someone who thinks that the sky's the limit. We have some really great actors and a fantastic ensemble cast that hopefully players will really fall in love with. And of course, the story is clever and intriguing, and I'm very proud of it, but I do think games are more like TV series than film in the sense that it really is characters who drive engagement ultimately.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Beyond the Light, and if you have missed the first 2 episodes, don't worry, you can check them out on the channel. They are live here. And also, don't forget to pre-order the game if you haven't, because you can get a free deluxe upgrade for 007 First Light, releasing on May 27th. See you next time.
Agents have very short life expectancy. And if you do get caught, we will deny ever having heard of you. How does that sound?
When do I start?
Welcome back! We hope you enjoyed today's episode. We're not done, of course. We'll have a live Q&A section. First of all, thank you so much for being here, Mikhail.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How was it to do the behind-the-scenes one before the game actually launches? To talk about the game?
Yeah, that was fun. I looked tired, I think. It was back in February.
Oh yeah, right. It was back in February. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember. But of course, we will take a look at all of your questions. I have some of the questions also prepared here, but we'll take your questions as well. I already saw one of the questions there. We'll talk a bit about these first, and then we'll jump in as soon as we have some selected from you guys. But I think my first question really is, and that is, what is like the core vision when you start to create a reimagined origin story of Bond? Like, take me through the process.
Okay. From the very beginning, it was the origin aspect.
Yeah.
I guess that was part of the brief.
Yeah.
Right. That we wanted to do a story about a young Bond who is introduced into this world of espionage for the first time.
Yeah.
Which we haven't really seen before. I mean, if you take Casino Royale, that was also an origin story.
Yeah.
But you enter much later, and you feel there's a lot more backstory to him. He's already kind of broken and jaded.
There's
and,
some history already there.
There's a lot of skeletons in that particular closet, right?
Yeah.
Where we wanted to see, okay, this is a young guy, and it's with a much more sunny disposition, and then see how he enters this world, and perhaps how it changes him along the way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is also interesting to see because, yeah, you mentioned it in popular media, you never start at the same point where our game is starting, right?
Yeah.
So, can you say, is this a challenge? Is this something that you felt came naturally to you when you approach it, the origin aspect in mind, or is this something that you would say, it took a while to have our own vision created for the exact approach?
I think the main challenge with the origin aspect was that he has to be James Bond, right? Even though he's not really James Bond yet. So I think players would probably not like if you spent like 80% of the game playing as somebody who's not really James Bond.
Yeah.
So you need to find a balance where where he already has these inherent Bond qualities, where you take one glance at him and you go like, yeah, that's a young James Bond for sure, right?
Yeah.
But still find some trajectory for him to go
evolve,
through, and how I see him, how he involves in some meaningful way. But it's like you're kind of tempted to just make him James Bond, and unfortunately that would be kind of stale and flat, right? So you need to start somewhere, but you can't start as far away from the end point as you would probably normally do. So it's about finding a balance where you recognize the guy, but he's not him yet. He hasn't come into himself.
Obviously, we wanted to show some kind of a development and evolution of him growing into the role. But I see the point where you need to be James Bond already for you to feel like James Bond.
You can't just be James Bond at the end of the campaign. I was like, that's great, but like, it's not what I signed up for.
Okay,
right?
but James Bond will be recognizable as James Bond. That's my main takeaway. But speaking exactly that, how we try to stay true to the legacy of him. Of course, Bond has been part of many media pieces before, movies, literature as well. But how is it challenging to make it distinctively 007 First Light, rather than retelling the same story or a familiar story already?
I mean, that initial process is a fair bit ago now, but I think I guess we listed all the traits
that we felt were
Okay.
inherent to Bond. And in a way, just discussed, is he like this yet, or does that come with age or maturity,
okay.
and sometimes you're like, yeah, you see that's totally, that's part of who he is. He doesn't need to learn to be impulsive or brave, or right? It's like, of course he is, right? It's James Bond, but there are other things where you're like, yeah, okay, he'll grow into that. We don't need to.
Can you give me some examples of like these narrative themes where you mentioned like his brash?
I mean,
okay, yeah.
His impulsivity for sure. I mean, that's something. I mean, it's just a young person's trait. But then with Bond, he's ludicrously impulsive, right, and reckless, and he's kind of a maverick.
Yeah, that's a maverick,
and
courageous.
That is charming and engaging. But part of the journey, of course, is to learn to maybe stop and think and assess risk. This is part of it's part of life. It's part of maturing.
Wow. How do you mix like this young, you said maverick approach, or this rashfulness, courage, with an agent story? Like, as an agent, you're a spy. You have like this whole world of espionage that you're getting into.
Well,
how do you balance it?
I don't want to spoil anything.
Okay,
but you juxtapose it with the world. So the world that he enters is damn it, it's kind of hard.
Of course,
to,
you don't.
But I think I said in the video actually that
Yeah.
this takes place in an age where MI6 has been through some changes where they are kind of it's all very data driven and they're sort of risk averse. And then in comes this young kid who just takes snap decisions and is willing to put himself out there. And that kind of changes the whole,
A fresh wind.
The MO of the agency in a way.
We'll come to the questions here in a bit. I already saw a couple of questions popping up there. And I think Gabe already, behind the scenes, has selected a few. But let me just finish off this question here first. Obviously, not only Bond has some sort of history, also IO has some sort of history. And how do you see how we adapted? I mean, you worked on Hitman before. How do we have adapted like our internal expertise on working on these games and brought this together with a more narrative-focused experience?
Yeah, Hitman has a lot of complex narrative, but it is primarily a gameplay-driven game.
Yes.
Where it's about iteration, right? And replayability and all that. And 47 is someone who's always in the periphery of things. We used to see these Hitman levels like a Swiss clock, and it's turning and it's turning and it's turning until he does something, right? Where James Bond, he's always at the center of things, and it's much more, because it's an action adventure, it's a much more forward momentum experience. So we had to kind of marry those two in a way, which is kind of actually quite hard, to have that, to have the complexity that you expect from an IOI game, but still have it more front foot, more forward momentum, where you don't dwell in a place for hours upon hours and reading every. He's not like that, so the game cannot be like that. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see. I agree. Okay, that makes sense totally. I think I will have just one more question before we come to the community questions. We already touched upon the narrative, but when building the narratives for the game, right? And just speaking as someone who doesn't know exactly how to work on a game as a writer, and knowing only myself from my background, how do you even start writing for a game? Like, is writing blockade a thing, or what is the process like? I just imagine I get the task like start writing for this project. There's only the IP that we know the origin aspect, but how do you start?
I'm a very methodical person, so I mean it's creating story outlines is a time-honored craft and process that you get from cinema, basically, right?
so that there's a method to it, which is also why I personally have never experienced writer's block. I guess this is more like developer's block, I guess, than
Okay.
actual writing, because if you're serious about story development, the writing itself is meant to be almost like an afterthought.
Okay.
The actual the outlining process is actually the most important part. But where do you start? Personally with themes, I think, which is kind of the underrated of the three, like, key. You have character, you have plot, and you have theme, right? Kind of the key pillars of story. Theme is always the kind of the underrated one that nobody talks about, but it's the one that informs everything else.
What is a theme exactly, for example? Just a basic one. Is it like revenge is a theme, or?
No, that's too concrete.
Okay.
You can usually, you can make a revenge theme, but you'll have to you need to pose it like a question, I guess. In that case, does revenge, is revenge ever justifiable? For instance, that could be a theme.
Okay.
And the key thing about themes is that, it's not a message. Stories are not about sending messages. Stories are about exploring themes. So there's no answer, right? There may be an answer for the main character, but there should be a different answer to another character and so forth, because you're shining a light on a theme, right?
So you start with a theme, then you have characters, and then plot?
Well, not necessarily that way around. An idea can come from anywhere. It could be a thematic idea. It could be a character idea. It could be a plot idea. I guess most people will have plot ideas to start with, and then usually they just run in a direction, and then they realize that they hit a dead end and they have to start over. That's why it's very important to take a step back and go, okay, that's a nice idea, but what's it actually about, right? Before you start spend too much time on it.
And last question, then we come. But can you take me behind the rooms? Like, how do you start writing it? Is it like a team of writers? Everybody pitches in. Okay, I got this cool theme. Or do we sit in a writer's room together, or is
we develop as a group, as a narrative team. We are 3 dedicated story writers: Crystal and Barry and myself, and then Martin, the narrative and cinematic director. And you just sit and hash it out, and then when you get the further you go along in the process, the more you work on your own, right? But while you're outlining the basic
the cornerstones,
the top line for the storyline, you do it as a group.
Okay, that's cool.
Effort.
Oh, that's nice. Okay,
yeah, it is very nice.
I would love to sit in at some point and be like, okay, give it to me. I want to hear the themes. But I think we got
some process.
Yeah, perfect. I think we have some questions, and I see a lot of long questions as well. Gabe, hit me. What do we have?
Well, we have a plethora of questions from Expecting Mr. Bond. And I'm actually curious, maybe this is something you might not have the perspective on, but the game title is 007 First Light. And he was asking if we had any hints or kind of how this name is matching the game that we're going to play. Like, basically, why have we named it 007 First Light?
Okay, I'll just rephrase the question again. So, one of the questions that we have right now is focusing on the title. 007 First Light. Can you share a bit of light on how this maybe correlates to the narrative, to the origin story, to the game? Why have we decided for First Light?
Exactly that. We had a number of contenders, and First Light. First of all, it sounds like a Bond title.
Yes, agreed.
There is a commonality to Bond titles. You can usually tell, like with Bond songs or something, where it's like, that's a Bond. That sounds like a Bond title. Right? So we felt it sounded suitably like a Bond title, and also it does reference the origin aspect. First Light. It's it's the sort of dawn of a new era kind of vibe, I guess.
Working in the metaphors.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why this series is also called Beyond the Light, right?
It's a nice ring to it, I think.
On YouTube, Sebastian Morales is asking a more personal question. Of all James Bond media, video games, movies, books, what's your favorite?
Casino Royale. Absolutely.
Okay, for those who didn't get the question was, what is your favorite pieces of Bond media? And it is Casino Royale.
It was even
that movie even inspired the Hitman trilogy.
Oh,
when we started out.
really?
It was, yeah, it was Casino Royale and the very first Mission Impossible film, the Brian De Palma one, the original. Those two movies were kind of that was all we talked about when we did that reimagining, and some of the early levels from Hitman 2016 are kind of Bond homages, really, like
okay, nice.
Sabian's levels in particular.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, I'll pay attention to it then.
Jay Walker, Jay Skywalker, I missed the word, is asking, what do you think the most challenging part is of writing for a video game versus something like a TV or movie?
Okay. You can
I think
think
we
1
talked
second.
about a little bit in the episode. Too.
Yeah. So Jay Skywalker is asking, what is the most challenging part of working on a video game? Did I get this correct? Yes.
It's a very big question with a lot of answers.
We can start. We have time.
I guess, I mean, the main challenge is once you've done the story outline where, and even written as a screenplay where a movie screenwriter would, cash in their check and say,
Okay.
that's sort of where the job really starts for us, right? Because that's only part one. The actually translating a normal classic linear story outline into a gameplay experience is really hard.
Okay.
It's really hard not to crack. I guess it's less. It was even harder with Hitman because it was non-linear. So you didn't even know what parts of the story that players would experience, if anything at all, because they might go out of character at any given moment, right?
And just complete
so
the
in a
mission
way,
in 3 seconds, like the speedrunners do, yeah.
Just play around, right? And then, in this case, this is a more curated cinematic experience. So we do kind of, we know, unless you go to the bathroom during the cinematics, we kind of know that what people have actually experienced. That makes it easier, but still, you can have what sounds like a perfectly good idea for a mission, for instance, or a level, and then hit a brick wall when it's like, but how does this turn into meaningful, challenging, fun gameplay, moment-to-moment story gameplay flow? Is really
I guess the gameplay part, to mix it with the narrative part, can be quite challenging.
And we are heavily involved in that, and I don't think that's the case in all studios, but we are always in tandem, writers and level designers.
Oh, that's nice.
In creating that flow. So that and it's also really fun, but it's
nice.
Quite a
Great question, Jay Skywalker. Yeah. Thank you.
Next one from Expecting Mr. Bond. We've mentioned a bunch that our story and kind of Bond in general is inspired quite heavily by Ian Fleming's novels. Looking at the film era, do you think there are any big elements that you think impacted the way we approached the story? Without spoiling, obviously.
So what are the biggest elements from the movie franchise or from the past movies of Bond that impacted our development?
I mean, there's always little ideas that you get where, like, for some moment where it could be like that moment in
movie X.
Right? I think, as tonally, I think we're mostly in line with the Craig era, but like I said, it's less dark. It's much more fun and inviting and adventurous than that because he's a kid, right?
Yes.
But I think that I mean, that tonally, I guess that's where we take most of our inspiration, craft-wise.
I mean, it's also the one.
But it's full of stuff where it's like, you create a minor villain character and everybody goes, oh, but that's just like the guy from that movie, or even down to some action set piece or something where it's always like, oh, it could be like, with the card flips and some, whatever.
Some references there, yeah.
All the time. Q gadgets, it's the same, right? I mean,
yes, of course.
So I think we are.
I mean, it kind of also makes sense because this is the one that the most people are currently familiar with.
Yeah, and it's Casino Royale came out in 2005, so it's a very long period.
Oh yeah, okay, that's already 21 years ago.
I grew up with the Roger Moore films, but it's not like I remember the Sean Connery films either, right?
Yeah, okay.
But I think we've kind of picked ideas from every era and every movie here,
Yes.
here and there.
It's a great amalgamation of
There's
all
a
of them.
lot of fun stuff too.
Okay. Yeah, we're don't
Appropriate.
spoil. Don't spoil.
From Expecto Go, we talked about in Beyond the Light episode 2, there'll be some iconic characteristics that Bond is going to pick up from like other members of the cast. He's asking, because I know Martin talked a little bit about like Q's style. So the question is, can you elaborate a little bit on how the surrounding cast is kind of helping form Bond?
Okay, for everybody. So we were now talking about, of course, Bond has more than just James Bond as part of his entire story. But can you elaborate on what it's like to work on also the expanded cast, like Q?
Yeah. Like Q, yeah.
For example, yeah, you could take any.
There's a fine line between, you don't want to reimagine someone for the sake of reimagining them, but you do need a take, right? And some come easier than others. I think we all from the very beginning we all had the same and very clear image of who Moneypenny was or who M was, for instance. Whereas with Q, we did come up with a new take on him,
okay.
right? With the very, as people have commented, he's very suave. That's he cares a lot about quality and that maybe that's kind of where Bond gets his his exquisite taste from, perhaps his, inspiration from Q. There are a couple of moments that at least point in that direction. So he's kind of a fresh take, and some of the others are more like, well, they're perfectly rounded, established characters that work. So it's not like you don't have to reinvent every wheel.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Do you have a favorite side character that you can name?
That's the thing. There's so many of the characters that we haven't really revealed yet.
Okay, from the known. I mean, Q is a good pick.
Q is really
Alistair
great, yeah.
Mackenzie's doing
Yeah.
an amazing job there.
Yeah, Q. He's great.
Yes.
And it's so fun to write.
Yeah?
Yeah. And Q Lab as a whole, that was just a blast.
Oh
It was
yeah, okay.
really,
I
really fun.
saw a bit of it. I can't wait for people to see what it's like in the Q Lab.
I mean, for me, it's like I would buy a Q Lab simulator. That's all the game I need. That's just.
Yeah, okay, works. Pitch. We will pitch it.
A question from Expecting Mr. Bond earlier in the stream, because it was related to bluffing. So are bluffs context specific and adapted to the situation he's in, or is it kind of like the question I think specifically was like, are we pulling from like a generic set of like bluffs that he'll just do to get by a situation?
I think this is a more gameplay focused question, like regarding the buffs, and if you've seen it before in gameplay elements, Bond will be able to bluff his way through some of the most precarious cases because he's charming like that. And can you touch upon, like, did you write multiple lines for his bluffs, or are they more specified to dedicated cases, or is it one go-to line that he always has on his mind?
No, they are dedicated. I mean, that's part of that's the whole point, right? That you feel smart through Bond.
Yes.
He's smart for you, right?
Yeah.
But like, I would never have come up with that in a million years, but luckily James Bond, he can, right?
James Bond is James Bond.
So
yeah.
it does need to fit the situation. It does need to be like, that was clever. If it was generic, what's the point, right? Then he's as dumb as you and me.
Yeah, I think there was one in the gameplay scene that we already revealed where he was bluffing through the gameplay scenes. I think there's one where he was bluffing about his press.
Yeah.
He lost his press ticket, and it's like he didn't have it with him. And I think there's another one where it's talking to the guards. It's like, hey, there's something going up on here. You have to check it out. So yeah, okay. So we will have.
There are some good ones.
How many lies did you wrote?
In total?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
You don't need to answer. But
like for the whole campaign, I'm really not sure. Must be.
you wrote a lot of lies.
But it is lies, not lines.
Oh, lines probably
I
as
thought
well.
you meant okay. Yeah. But a game of this size is kind of like writing a season of a TV series, I'd say, on average.
Okay, that's nice.
Give or take, yeah.
So entire book.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
Lies, I don't know.
Okay. Good one. Good lie.
Maybe just for people at home, give the context that it's like writing a season for a show because that's like how it's spaced out rather than like length.
Ah, yeah.
I
yeah.
think people might assume.
No,
we're
no,
talking
it's
about,
not.
like,
We're not talking about the length of a show. It's more about the episodic part of it. We're not releasing episodes on this.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
It will be one game release. Do we have more?
Yeah, we could probably take like one or two more questions.
Yes,
forward.
let's do 1, 2. Yeah.
A bit more personal, I guess, but what inspires, influences, and motivates you during the creative process when it comes to basically anything, the writing, designing, development of the video game? Like you personally, what are you pulling from your life to inspire you?
Okay, so
What am I pulling from life?
Yeah, or anything. What inspires you?
what
when
inspires
you're
you to
looking
work
at
on the
task?
game? Yeah.
My paycheck.
I think I guess it depends on what is in. I really like story outlining. That's pre-production, right? So,
Yeah.
so that's like the early where you explore character arcs and themes and put the plot together and find how making it resonate and
Yeah.
to tie it all together. I think that is a really it's a really great craft. It's a very fun thing to do that I really enjoy, both on my own and as a team. And later in production, I think it's when it's working with the level designers when you're crafting some particular gameplay puzzle.
Okay. But I mean, it's a very creative job, obviously. So how much of your real life inspiration comes into it? Like, do you look at your dad and be like, I'll make him a character in one of my games, or you take some certain pieces of it?
I guess sometimes, maybe subconsciously. I mean, it's not like you can't really. I've never really been a fan of the write what you know idiom because stories would be really boring.
Yeah.
It's more like write what you're interested in.
Ah, okay.
But of course, you do take. You can take dilemmas and extrapolate them.
Yeah, okay, I see.
Or the things that, but I guess it's more like themes really. What interests me and what I want to explore and tell stories about. And
Okay, so this is where the inspiration hits you.
the inspiration is a lot about. Books I read and popular science or whatever that makes a creative spark. You feel that that's a really interesting dilemma or a thing to explore, but you can tell a story about that. I don't really draw from personal experience as such, but I'm sure some makes its way in there without
always,
really noticing almost.
Interesting. Okay, cool. I like that. Okay, you said popular science.
Yeah.
I would. Okay, I will never be a writer because I need to educate myself.
Yeah, again, we can't spoil the plot, but there's,
Yeah.
there's plenty of science stuff. Right?
Yeah, of course. We talked about Q.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do one more.
Yeah, someone's asking about M specifically.
Oh, M. Okay.
And M is kind of how is M different or similar to what previous versions of M that we've seen before?
Oh, okay. So
Without spoiling, because we
Yeah.
have talked a little bit about M.
So without spoiling, the question is, who is the question by? Oh, sorry.
Brian Reyes.
Brian Reyes. Nice. Thank you for the question first, Brian. And so the question is very M specific. How do we bring M into the game, and how do we reference or take into consideration further references?
M is difficult because Dame Judi Dench is such a juggernaut. Right?
Yes.
It's like you almost cannot imagine M not being Judi Dench.
Yeah.
Right? But I think we sort of took the same approach as with Bond, where we meet her at an earlier state, where she's softer, I guess, and not as jaded yet. But she's the one who. She's kind of the agent of change at MI6. She's the one who sees something in Bond, who feels a need to bring back these 00 agents because he thinks there's still room for kind of, you know, the individual, the human heart and the individual human achievement in this otherwise very technological age.
All right.
So I guess she's a little conservative almost.
Was she the most hardest character to write
conservative in a punk way, isn't that?
A conservative punk, okay. But was she one of the hardest characters to write on? Or write about? I don't know how to say it.
Not necessarily, because she's also very much a function, right? She's the head of MI6. She has to be in a certain way.
Yeah.
So it's more about what she represents to him in kind of the pantheon around him. As you know, Bond has his mentor. He has Moneypenny. He has M. He has Q. And like in that pantheon of supporting cast, where does she fit in thematically with him and his journey? Little wishy-washy, but
I'll take it. I hope that answers your question, Brian. Thank you again for sending the question. And I think we'll keep it a short one today, or fairly shorter than the previous streams. But thank you, Michael, for coming by.
Thank you.
Very interesting to learn about the writing process, and also I learned I will never be a writer, but luckily we have people who are way better than me at that. And thank you everybody for joining as well. Thank you to people joining on YouTube, Twitch, be it X, maybe also on Steam or on Facebook. Thank you everybody for watching. If you have missed the first 2 episodes of Beyond the Light, they are on our YouTube channel right now. You can check it out, and we will be back very soon with new news and new updates. And thank you everybody for joining. If you haven't pre-ordered the game, by the way, you can still pre-order the game and also get a free deluxe upgrade for any platform. And the game will be coming out 007 First Light on the 27th of May. But we will see each other before that, because we have some news to share in the future. See you guys next time. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the team behind the screens. And yeah, we wish you have a wonderful day, and see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.